July, covering all things professional wrestling. A show by members of the Busted Open Nation. Welcome to the Nation's Corner. Here are your hosts, the Nation's Corner crew.
Hey, what's up, pro wrestling fans? Welcome to the Nation's Corner. I am Front Row, joined by Debhausen, the great and powerful, and Tony Justice, the greatest truck driver of all time. What's up, people?
What's going on?
I literally just asked you.
It's going pretty good. Another week in the books, and it's Saturday night, and let's talk some wrestling.
Yeah. Before we get there, I want to give a shout out to, not a shout out, but like some, thoughts to the folks that are here in the Carolinas and all up and down the East Coast. A lot of folks here got hit pretty hard with this storm that came through. I saw today Asheville's accessible only via aircraft now.
Wow.
Landslides and Biltmore Village is wiped out. Like I've just seen so many horrifying clips. I saw a piece of footage earlier of a house, well, two houses in Asheville just moving down the river.
Wow.
Two full homes just
crazy.
Damn.
So yeah, I hope everybody's safe. Hope all the folks that are in earshot are safe.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of damage and a lot of people are impacted. So, thoughts out to those folks.
It's not fun. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Yeah, hurricanes, man. They're just when they we had in the Gulf like 2 weeks ago or whatever, there was a model saying that it had the probability of having two hurricanes at one time in the Gulf at the same time, and it just didn't cycle. It just we just rained a lot down here, but it never came up into a category or anything. So that would have been bad. In fact, I was supposed to go to New Iberia, Louisiana with a load, and they canceled it that week because of that. And so it didn't get as bad over there though. It just rained and whatever. But those hurricanes are bad news.
It was definitely bad. And I know the TNA tapings were supposed to be this weekend, and then they moved them, and then I think they just outright canceled them.
Yeah, they did.
Which makes sense.
That's a
There's
bummer.
still like a lot of people without power and trees down and all that stuff. We took a little drive around this afternoon and saw a lot of stuff down. But I see John Bays in the chat. John in Charleston. Yeah, I think Charleston got a little bit of it, but not as bad. So I'm glad to hear that you weren't terribly impacted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And speaking of John Bay, John in South Jersey is with Neil and our very own Mongovian Mike. They are at the NWA show tonight. So we're super excited and super jealous. I know a lot of us have had the opportunity to go to NWA shows, and they're always a good time. So jealous, but excited for those guys.
Yeah, I'm so jealous, but there's no way I was going in Long Island.
Yeah.
Hashtag NWA fan.
My Mama Storm shirt, my OG Mama Storm shirt.
Oh, nice.
Because Tim Storm is awesome. He's the coolest dude.
Yes.
If you ever have a chance to meet Tim Storm, he's one of the nicest people in pro wrestling.
Yes, he is. I had the pleasure of interviewing him. Which show was that? Front Row. That was was in St. Louis. Yeah, St. Louis. It was NWA 73. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we had the pleasure of interviewing Pero and Tim Storm before the pay-per-view that night. So it was interesting.
We interviewed a lot of people. And then for Empower, we interviewed, I don't know, like 5 or 6 different talents over on the women's side. There's a lot. I think we had like maybe 10 or 12 interviews from that weekend. We had a bunch of stuff. So it was cool. Yeah. So shout out to all the NWA people.
Yeah. Hashtag NWA fam. So
Yes.
Yeah. Anywho, so it's a crazy week in pro wrestling this week. I know everybody's had their thoughts. I think everybody's at this point watched the Vince McMahon documentary, and we won't spend.
I haven't watched all of it.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it yet.
It's funny because I watched it and then I listened to Sam Roberts' reaction pod, and he's like, "Yeah, you don't really learn much," and he was not wrong.
Yeah.
There's some interesting things in it that I kind of wanted to ask your opinion of, like. Because the way that I've heard people describe it is it's not really a documentary about Vince. It's more like the history of WWE narrated by Vince. But I still don't feel like after watching it, I didn't learn anything about him personally, except that they kind of tacked on all the scandal stuff at the end.
Yeah. So I think I think that's the thing. Like, okay, so you didn't really learn anything about him personally. And I kind of think that that's like the point. Like, that's what we learned, is that still everything he says is a work, is smoke and mirrors, even when it's a documentary about him. And it's still like he still didn't really open up. He's just, and he's trying to convince everyone that he's not that character. And it's like, yeah, you kind of seems like you are that character, man. Like, and everybody else says so. All the people that know you say so.
Yeah. Remember like 2 years ago, wasn't it, when
Mm-hmm.
he did the interview with Pat McAfee, and that was like a groundbreaking interview.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, he doesn't do interviews, and here he is on Pat McAfee's show, and
Yeah.
that was before all the stuff that's come out, and I remember all of us were just so glued to the radio, listening and watching. Was it on YouTube? I don't think so.
Yeah, Pat McAfee show
Yeah.
is live on YouTube. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, we were all glued to that interview, and we were
I
all
didn't watch
just,
it.
listening or watching. And we learned some things there. But now, this documentary that's come out, I've been hearing people say, I haven't seen it myself, but I know some of the things. I listened to Dave and Matt Camp's reaction, and I listened to Sam's reaction. I have yet to listen to Eric Bischoff's reaction, because I know they did one as well.
Well, they are doing like a full review of each episode, and I think in
Yes.
fact they were live earlier. And I don't know if it's gonna be, because I remember him saying on his podcast that it was like an exclusive to ad-free show subscribers.
Okay.
So I don't know if they're putting it out on their YouTube for everybody else as well. But yeah, they were doing a separate podcast review for each episode.
Yeah.
I think that's for their ad-free subscription service, right? Yeah.
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 Just real quick, I want to add in John Bay. So John, just so you know, Deb's been deputized to award a GFY should it so merit this evening.
Yeah.
So be on the lookout.
I was told last night that it was my my duty.
You said
we shall
duty.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, I think similarly to the WWE biographies on A&E, these documentaries aren't really necessarily made for us hardcore fans, because us hardcore fans were we're pretty knowledgeable about the history. There's not really, like, we've heard so many stories over the years from documentaries, podcasts, all sorts, that there's not really a lot of stories that are gonna like, blow our minds or anything, that are going to be groundbreaking for us diehard fans. I think it was geared more towards potential viewers, new viewers, especially because Raw's going to Netflix. And I think it's assumed that sometime over the next few years, their other content is going to Netflix as well. So I think this is something that over time, it's going to get a lot of viewers watching that documentary right away. Right now, when it was released, it's only the diehard wrestling fans watching it. But I think over time, as more people see it in their, suggestions as they're scrolling through on Netflix, or if they watch, some other sports documentary that might be recommended to them, or if they tune into Raw once it's on there, then it might be recommended to them. So, and I think that's going to give newer viewers a lot of backstory in the history of the company. And then also, like, and I think I even remember saying this before it was released, that I kind of thought that their approach was going to be like, this is our history, some bad things happened, but this is how we've changed since those bad things happened. So this is something that they can point to the everyday TV watcher, and that pro wrestling is not the stereotypical lowbrow that it used to be. It's changed and it's different now, and it's a massive global multimedia empire now. And I think that was the overall purpose of it. And I think it really showcased how Vince is just like, I don't know, like, frankly, not a good person. I don't really care if I say it. I'll say it. He's not a good person.
Yeah. I mean, there were some things that happened back in the past that I remember watching live. You know, I remember some of the things in the Attitude Era, you know, and then even after, during the Ruthless Aggression era that
Yeah.
kind of made you like scratch your head going, really? You know, you're
Yeah.
gonna put that on
Well,
television, but you
at
know,
the same time, that was the humor of the time, so I get that part of it. I think it's more of how he treats other people, his business practices.
yeah,
Like a lot of people tend to say like they admire someone who's a ruthless businessman. I'm sorry, I don't. I'll be frank about that. I don't admire someone who treats other people like shit for money.
yeah.
I think there's two different things there, right? Real quick, I want to say hi to everybody in chat. I got a bunch of people in here. Guitar Red's in there. I say RJ. Hey guys. Brooke is in there. Brooke, how's it going, Brooke? Appreciate everybody's joining. And John, stay tuned. But there's a couple of things about the way that I think it was presented in that it's okay to acknowledge, like, without Vince, like, this pretty much the whole industry doesn't exist the way it does today, right?
That goes
But as a
without
person,
saying.
yeah, but that doesn't mean we revere the man. You can just acknowledge. I mean, there's been so many celebrities and people and public figures over the years that we've acknowledged their work or appreciated their content or whatever, and then you find out they're terrible people, and you're like, well, I'm not gonna support that person anymore. But what I did think,
and that doesn't mean I'm never gonna watch WWE again. I mean, obviously, that's not the case.
And they were clear to say he's not here. They said over and over again, he is not here anymore.
And that was the point.
Yeah.
Yep.
So two things I noticed. A lot of the interviews that they did, I noticed a lot of the bigger names, Rock, Undertaker. Well, not so much Undertaker, but like Rock, Cody, Cena. Those people chose their words very carefully, and that was before the stuff came out. Those were recorded like 2 years prior or a year and a half prior.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't really even have that knowledge, and they were still careful. Like they were asked, what's Vince McMahon's legacy? And not only could they not answer, but Cena's like, yeah, I'm not the guy to answer that question.
Yeah.
And it was sort of, none of them could, not Undertaker, not Cena, not anybody, like Cody, none of them did. So I thought it was interesting that they couldn't really put words around it. And then of course, later on, we find out everything goes to hell.
Yeah.
But I also think from a marketing standpoint, they're putting this on display to say, bad shit happened. We're not proud of everything that we did, but we addressed it. They even showed a clip like from a handheld camera with Vince addressing the locker room, talking about the new wellness policy when it went into effect back in the day, way back when they started doing drug testing, and then they started doing, and the stuff was Chris Nowinski also talking about CTE and the Sports Legacy Institute. Well, it's not, you know about it. You know.
Yeah, I mean,
history,
like I said, nothing
it's not
is
a
new
spoiler.
information here.
No,
I just didn't get to that part.
But I mean, he talks about how bad it was and how the industry didn't want to acknowledge it. And then Vince at some point reached out to him and said, hey, let's like acknowledge this, because, you know, we're now a global entertainment company, as you said, and we have, the athletes have to be cared for. And I think Undertaker said something similar. Anyway, it is interesting. So like, if you have 6 hours to dedicate to it, feel free. You're going to learn about 20 minutes worth of new stuff.
Yeah.
But other than
I'm a documentary junkie. Like I will watch any documentary out there, even if it's about a topic that I'm not particularly interested in, because I like documentaries. I like learning about things. Like, and we were having this conversation last night about, you know, people potentially watching the documentary, even if they're not a wrestling fan. Everybody knows how I feel about baseball. I've watched Ken Burns baseball.
Excellent.
Would you watch a documentary on the Dallas Cowboys?
I would, in fact. I've watched documentaries on the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders, and everybody knows how I feel about cheerleaders.
So this is an interesting point, because I had this argument with a friend the other night. I told you guys, like, he was hard and fast, like, wrestling fans are the only people that are going to watch this documentary. People that are not fans of wrestling. But I'm like, Netflix documentaries has such a massive audience of people that will just watch any documentary made by Netflix, right? There's a whole subset of people that subscribe to that platform specifically for documentaries. There are definitely people watching this, right?
Seth is not far off.
He's not. He's literally right over there.
He's not far off.
It's too bad. It's too bad Neil's not on here. Just Tony, you'll have to field this one.
I have to kick my own ass if I had to. Love you, RJ.
RJ's gonna get a GFY
and John Bay
tonight.
knows it's not happening.
RJ's gonna get a GFY.
So anyway, it is interesting. I was more interested in the reactions, like you said, like Busted Open and Sam and all these industry people who are sort of diving into it and reading into stuff that maybe I didn't see. So
yeah,
all right, let's switch over. So we're headed to Bad Blood, and just looking at the card, Bad Blood's on the 5th. We've got 5 matches listed, advertised already for the card. I think, once again, we talk about this every week, but I think they're doing a fantastic job storytelling and building to matches. Right now, it doesn't look like it's going to be a huge pay-per-view from a card perspective, which I'm really liking, these like 6-7 match cards. Which I absolutely love. And some of the stories that came out of this week, two of my favorite ones, I want to hit on the first one. I'm not going to go in order, but I absolutely love the Bronson Reed and Braun Strowman stuff that they're doing right now. On paper, it looks like it's just 2 big guys fighting, but the shit that they're doing on TV is like insane.
Yes, I agree. And they we were talking last week on last week's show about how everybody in the industry listens to Busted Open, and wasn't it Bully that said that, like they're 2 monsters, last monster standing, and he said like, oh, they should do a thing where it's like King Kong versus Godzilla, and what do you know,
and fighting in the city and ending up in the city, and that's what the promo is. It's that, and it was exactly to the T of what Bully said. And I'm like, wow. I even tweeted it out right after I saw it. I took a picture of my TV in the truck and I tweeted it out. And I said, they listen, and it's a running joke, but really they do. I mean,
it's true.
They do. I mean, it's just no way about it. And all the attention that Busted Open is getting now on Raw and SmackDown, they're getting shout outs from actual commentators on, and it's cool. Pat McAfee,
think really like
cool.
most of the commentators on, I'd say, WWE, AEW, and TNA, they all put in Busted Open shout outs once in a while.
Yeah. And it was really cool to hear Joe Test throw that out there last week. And by the way, we talk about it all the time, but my God, is he getting better and better every week? What a tremendous signing. What a great signing. He brings energy. He understands the product. He's grabbing signs from the audience. He's just having a fun. Like, he stayed, like he did the Cody Rhodes. He stayed until absolutely everybody got kicked out, and he was throwing shirts into the audience and interacting with fans. And they're like, you have to go home. He's like, I don't want to go home. This is great.
Yeah.
I made the reference whenever I first heard, when I first saw him on Raw and he was talking, and then I gave it a minute, or gave it a few matches, where he was actually commentating and stuff. I compared his voice. It's his tone in his voice. It reminds me of 2 people, Pat Summerall and Mauro Ranallo. And not exactly Mauro's excitement, like things that Mauro would say, but Mauro had a tone to his voice, and Joe has that same tone, in my opinion. So Joe is really, he's really impressing me. I actually, he brings a different excitement to it now, and it's that touch of football commentating that he does that makes it interesting as far as watching pro wrestling. And it's just, I can't wait for him to get better and better and better, because he's knocking it out of the park now.
Yeah, and John Bay said
Yeah,
earlier,
I
he
agree.
does make everything seem like a national foot championship. Everything feels like a big fight feel with him calling it, for
Right.
sure. And I think over the course of the last month and a half or so, he's just gotten so comfortable that that energy is coming out. The first few weeks he's got to get his footing and whatever, it's fine. But
Mhm.
now I feel like he's just having a good time and
Oh yeah.
doing a great job of putting over the talent without stepping on anybody, like maybe other people do on Tuesdays. Who's to say?
Yeah.
Right. Who's to say?
Yeah. So you
Yeah.
mentioned Mauro Ranallo, and I just wanna quickly touch on this. Mauro Ranallo was announced that he would be a part of Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling coming up, the revival by Scott D'Amore. And if you've been paying attention to the posts and the announcements coming from Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling, um, it's gonna be big. It's gonna be awesome. They're doing a 2-night event, Saturday and Sunday, October 19th and 20th. They've got Mackenzie Mitchell that they announced. It's gonna be part of it. Just yeah, if you're interested, I highly suggest going and looking at what they've announced so far as matches and just people that will be a part of it. I really can't wait to see this show.
Yeah, Deb. So I saw the announcement today. They just announced Athena's defending her Ring of Honor title against Giselle Shaw on that show.
Yes.
Like, holy shit. Okay.
Yes. How
That's
about
very
that?
cool.
Yeah,
I've been
it's
saying
gonna
it.
be
We've been
awesome.
talking about it forever. Athena's the face of Ring of Honor, and she's one of the best champions out there. She's the longest reigning Ring of Honor champion of all time, male or female.
Yes.
I think she's done an incredible job representing the brand. So,
She
kudos.
really has.
Yep.
I get that, Ring of Honor at this point is what it is, but if you're a diehard pro wrestling fan and you're not watching it, you're missing out because it's just, yeah, there might not be a ton of storyline involved on that show. There is some, there's a storyline with Athena, there is some storyline going on. But overall, there's just some amazing matches. Like the tag team champs right now are Sammy Guevara and Dustin Rhodes.
Yeah.
And it's just there's some amazing stuff, and Sammy Guevara is the main event tonight on Collision against Okada.
That'll be a great match.
Yeah.
Something I'd like to point out. Okay, so when I was down at my sister's earlier, we were having a kind of a cookout down there earlier, and my neighbor that lives next door showed up down there, and he was talking to my brother-in-law about something, and me and him were on the porch talking about stuff, trucks, and all that stuff, and then he asked me about the state of pro wrestling right now. He said, what do you think about? Because he's a big wrestling fan too. What do you think about the state of wrestling now? I said, man, it's just options, options, options. It's healthy, and I love it. And we were talking about AEW, and he says, yeah, I watch Dynamite and I catch Collision every now and then, but I really don't watch Rampage too much. And I said, yeah, me neither. And he made the comment. He said, I wish that they would turn Rampage into a show for Ring of Honor. I mean, he actually said that, and I'm like, wow, we had talked about that on Zoom the other day. It's
Yeah.
just crazy how he didn't even interact with what we're talking about. Sometimes I don't think he watches
Right.
our show. If you do, shout out Jason. But yeah, I mean, for him to say that was really telling. Like, wow, okay, so it's not just the avid pro wrestling fans that listen to Busted Open every day and
Mhm.
do a podcast or watch wrestling as much as we do. It's not just us that think that. It's a consensus of the wrestling community that think that. So it's pretty cool to get that
Yeah.
perspective from him, saying that about Ring of Honor, where it deserves a platform. And we've been saying that for a long time.
Oh yeah.
So
Oh yeah. I don't know if you guys listened to Busted Open this morning, but they had on a guy who I can't remember where like what media outlet he was from, but they were talking about the TV rights and stuff, and AEW's TV rights deal that's probably going to be announced, shortly. AEW hasn't made any official announcements, but I guess there's been some stuff that came out probably from the network side, and it's kind of looking like AEW will have stuff on Max. What will be on Max, we don't know yet. And it's looking like they said they were renewed for 2 shows. So it's looking like Rampage seemingly, you can make the assumption that that means that Rampage would be going away. And there was also something about something going to a Fox brand. So we don't know what that may be. We'll have to wait and, see what the official announcements are. But I think that's a very good sign that, we know that barely anybody watches Rampage. I watch Rampage if I'm, not too tired and I go to bed early, but we know that very few people watch Rampage, and it just doesn't get the attention because it's Dynamite and Collision, and because it's always pre-taped, and the taping schedule is very irregular, that sometimes they record matches like before Dynamite, sometimes after Dynamite, sometimes on a different night. Like, it's all over the place. So yeah, I think judging from just the little tidbits that have been put out so far, I think it's good news coming.
So this is what I find so interesting, because with the tribalism and all the bullshit that you see online between WWE fans and AEW fans, and of course that's the minority of the people who are actually watching and enjoying the product. But
Yeah.
so if you look at the ratings and the attendance, AEW is down. But if you look at the overall marketing, the fact that they just signed a purportedly signed a pretty big deal, and from what I've heard, I don't know if this is true or not, so take it with a grain of salt, but the previous deal was 75 million a year, and this new one's like 175 million. So obviously they see, the parent company sees the value in the product. So they're investing a ton of money into AEW. And by moving,
Yeah.
if they do move their premium, I guess they'd be called premium live events at that point, their pay-per-views, if they move that to a streaming platform like Max, holy crap, like that's a huge deal. Like that's a
Yeah.
huge deal. So
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
Tony, you mentioned you were asked about the health of the industry. Yes, WWE they're just blowing everything out of the water. Record profits and merchandise and these massive like TV deals. They're Disney, so they're not in the
Right.
same conversation as AEW. But AEW was here, and now they're here. So they're
Yeah.
charting financially. They're charting in a very healthy way, because we don't want anything to happen to them, because it's bad for everybody in the industry.
Exactly.
So I'm
Exactly.
excited to hear the news, and I'll be really interested to see a formal announcement to see what the details are.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And the guy that was on Busted Open this morning, he said, like, when they say that there's another show going to Fox, like, he said that could just be vague, like, industry speak, because he even said, a lot of people at Warner Brothers Discovery still call it Turner. So, that's not specifying that it's going to be on the main Fox channel. That could just be, vague, like they kind of loop all of that, whatever, everything that company owns all in one. So we really don't know, like, what platform it's going to be on, what channel it's going to be on, or what it is. But it's still pretty exciting, like you said, that the health of the industry, that not only we have WWE, the juggernaut that it is, but we have another company that is still getting this visibility from these networks, that they're excited to have this product on. That guy was talking about that, the Warner Brothers Discovery overall, everything under their umbrella is going to be like starting to focus more on sports. Like they really want to have, like, every night would be primetime sports. So that's a really good sign. It's a really good sign overall.
Well, and so I also read, and this isn't like hearsay, this is like public knowledge, that AEW, Tony Khan, they trademarked a bunch of show names. So there could be included in that contract a future show in like a year or two. Like that might be the Fox show. That could be that piece of it. But even what we've just talked about tonight, like TNA's touring, AEW's touring, NXT is touring, NWA is touring. So they're selling, whether they're selling out or just selling healthy business. I mean, you've got all the major companies, whether they're top 4 or 5 companies, are all going all over the country and selling tickets to shows, so it's very healthy. And
Yeah.
like we talked about, like NWA is on the CW app, and NXT is going to CW, which is a huge platform. So many more people have access to CW. That's going to be huge for them.
Oh yeah. I'm excited to hear from the boys there at NWA tonight on how the show went.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
Nope, Neil is in the chat.
Oh, speaking
Neil!
of, say his name and he appears.
I
Cheers.
believe in Too Sweet Neil. Yeah, so I guess their show should be starting shortly. I hope they have a good time tonight. It's always so much fun there. I don't watch the product as much anymore, but I'm super happy that Tom Latimer is the NWA World Heavyweight Champion.
Yes.
Kenzie Page is incredible as a champion, following in the footsteps of Allison Kay and Thunder Rosa, and of course Camille and so many before them. There's a lot a very solid lineage and history to the women's title. So it's gonna be cool.
I have been meaning to check out NWA recently. It's, we watch so much wrestling, it's hard to find the extra time to fit in one more show, but they are in CW now, which, like you said, has the massive visibility, rather than when they were on Fight Plus that you had to have the monthly subscription to watch it. So yeah, maybe I'll check it out. Just from the show poster that they posted, their roster looks stacked right now.
Yeah. I still need to check out Carneyland on the that app, Apple TV app, right?
It's on their YouTube, I think. I saw it on the YouTube.
Carneyland?
I don't.
Yeah,
Carneyland's
I think that was on CW.
Okay. Well,
I didn't see it there. I don't have CW. I don't have the CW app.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm excited to see that.
Maybe
and huge shout out to Billy Corgan. I have yet to talk to Chad about, because he went to Hershey and saw the Smashing Pumpkins and Green Day in concert. And during Smashing Pumpkins concert, they have NWA talent that comes out on stage. I think it's during that song, one of their new songs. And I wanted to get Chad's reaction to that. I haven't talked to him about that yet. He's been taking care. He's been taking care of some things, so he's been kind of low key here lately. But I need to ask him about that. But Billy Corgan, man, after talking with him for 5 minutes in Atlanta, I mean, he saw our passion for the NWA, and he thanked us all for being there and supporting what he's doing. And just getting to meet the guy, number one, is I never imagined that would happen, but that guy is passionate about pro wrestling, and he's passionate about the NWA, and he's really trying to do some great things for the NWA. I really would like to see the NWA, because it deserves to be seen by more people on a huge platform, and I think they're starting to get some traction. Like, they're starting to get things in order for that to happen, So
I hope so. They had a rough time. They had a rough time coming out of the pandemic.
Yeah.
They did.
The pandemic, unfortunately, really, kind of affected them. But yeah, like you said, it seems like they're kind of really starting to get some traction here. I do want to show this comment. John Bay, you've earned your GFY tonight. GFY.
He was fishing for it. Come on. Nobody thinks Tyrus was a great wrestler. Stop it.
Well, some people do, apparently.
One other comment I'd like to make. I cannot listen to it, because I listen to Hair Nation. After Busted Open goes off the air, I listen to Hair Nation. And every time Into the Fire comes on, I think NWA.
Into the Fire. Yeah, it's such a great song.
Yes, it is.
Great song.
That's okay. Last night during Metal Mayhem, Kickstart My Heart came on, and I was like, oh, Busted Open's on.
That is so great. It's
shout out to
how
Busted
stuff
Open.
gets like in your brain like that.
Yeah, for sure. The last thing I'll say about NWA, and I'm hopeful for this, because in having conversations or being around Billy a little bit, but even hearing some of his public comments, he was definitely not a fan of Vince McMahon. It's not really a secret. But since Triple H took over and Nick Khan and the whole leadership team changed, I would be willing to bet that he would be open to more conversations about some sort of partnership. And I can definitely foresee a day where the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship, which Triple H is a massive fan, makes an appearance somewhere in WWE. I think it might eventually happen.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, I
And I
agree.
just want to point out that Tony had to flash the logo of this second-rate burger joint.
No, it's called product placement. See, I've been drinking out of my cup, right? But when I drink out of it the right way, you can't see the logo. So I had to turn it around and drink out of it like this.
Sorry,
so that you see the
no.
logo. It's product placement, Deb.
Yeah, if we get played for product placement, sure.
Well, hey, I'm trying, y'all. I'm trying.
All right, well, let me know if they reach out.
Okay.
I will.
Okay. But anyway.
All
Yeah.
right, back to the wrestling. So the other thing I wanted to ask you guys about was this. It felt kind of wonky to me. Like, I think the Cody and Roman team up, like the video package last week was incredible. I thought it was incredible, just really, really well done. But the stuff like this week, I know we were talking about SmackDown last night, and everyone's like, "Oh, the promo was great." And I'm like, I thought it was just 101. I didn't really get a lot out of that conversation.
I get it.
Can we do that?
But
Can we
I
do my Royal
enjoyed
Caribbean
it. I
clap
thought
now?
it was very entertaining. Maybe just because I love the interactions between Cody and Randy and KO. I just think the three of them are incredibly entertaining together. And I don't know, maybe that was it. I get your point that it was kind of like promo 101. Like it was, it was pretty basic. It was a setup for the match. But I don't know. I just think Randy and KO and Cody, the three of them together, is just something special.
So I agree with you with the KO and Cody stuff, and the stuff that happened afterwards in the back. Like that whole thread throughout the whole show was fantastic. I think KO can sell anything. He's wildly interesting. And you just don't know what the guy's going to say. You just, every time he talks, you're like, well, that wasn't written. Clearly wasn't written. I don't know if it is or not, but yeah. So like, to me, I felt like that set up the whole rest of the night, which obviously it did. But maybe part of it too is the solo. Maybe it was the solo part of it that I was just kind of like,
yeah,
I don't know. This bloodline isn't really doing it for me.
I agree with that. And I think we've talked about this before, that I think it's by design. It's by design that we're not supposed to be totally enthused about Solo's version of the bloodline. I think that's the point. And it might not bode well for him, although, it's pretty obvious he's an incredible talent, but there's just something kind of meh about it when he comes out, except for Jacob Fatu.
That's what I was gonna say.
Like,
it'd be unfair to say. Yeah, no, Jacob Fatu is that breakout part of the new bloodline that I'm waiting for a bigger role. Something is going to happen with Jacob Fatu in the near future. I think that Jacob may even become, I don't know. They can go so many different ways with this story, because we still got The Rock in the background that come back at some point, and we still have to have
coming back in January, first episode on Netflix.
Okay.
That would make sense, except that, I'm sorry, Tony, except that this entire storyline's on SmackDown. He might come back on Raw, but
I get it, but
yeah, we still have The Rock.
I don't know.
So you have Cody and The Rock teasing, you don't know what Cody or Rock gave back to Cody. You don't know what happened there. And Rock whispering something into his ear. You don't know what was said. So when The Rock comes back, is he going to have a story with Cody? We still have the story that's looming with Roman and The Rock. We have after the promo segment between Cody and Roman in the football field, now we have to wonder if we're going to see Roman and Cody again. And is Roman going to take the championship off of Cody? That could happen too, you know. So there's so many different things that's looming in the future. So now we just have to get there, and they have to keep telling this story with this secondary bloodline. And how long is that going to go? I mean, I'm pretty sure Survivor Series we're going to get the culmination of both bloodlines. I'm pretty sure. What we've been talking about for months, right? Front row. I mean, we've been talking about
We've been
Bloodline
talking
Civil
about
War.
that since WrestleMania.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's so many different directions they can go.
Yeah.
So what I think one of the things that we talk about as fans, all the fans sort of talk about, even people who have been critical of WWE, look at the last like 3 to 4 years of storytelling, go, yeah, but they're telling some really good stories, and people who are really into it, we have a lot of faith in equity built up into their ability to give us some long-term storytelling. So if you go back to the interview that Sam Roberts did on Not Sam Wrestling at the Fanatics Fest with Paul Heyman.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was a really interesting one. I think I've mentioned this before, but he asked Paul if they're paying attention to stuff in the background and are there throwaway segments, and Paul Heyman, the wise man, said, absolutely not. Every single frame of television means something, and we agonize and scrutinize over everything that happens. I would love to get Sam on this show to talk about the everything counts rule 3 of Not Sam Wrestling, but because it really is, like, you look at everything that's happened, and if like to your point, Deb, you look at this new bloodline and you sort of dismiss it, and you're missing the story that they're telling now because they're going somewhere with it. We have a tremendous amount of faith in their ability to go somewhere with it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. And I think kind of, see, I'm kind of undecided on, like, at some point Paul Heyman is going to come back into the fold.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, when will that be? And will that be like before Rock comes back into the fold or after Rock comes back? Like, I think that those kind of things are exciting to me because, like, we can speculate wildly about what's going to happen, but we really don't know. Like, we really can't. It's so not predictable.
Right.
Yeah, well, I think that's what makes it so exciting, because also in that interview, Paul Heyman said, I'm not coming back until it means something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not just going to show up on TV to stand in the background. Like, it has to be important. So right now, him showing up, if he showed up last night, it wouldn't have been important. Roman wasn't there, so what's the point? So
Right.
to your point, like, I think it's going to be some time, and it's going to have to be, and who is he going to represent? Probably Roman, but maybe not. So,
you know what's another thing that's really fascinating to me is that Paul Heyman did that interview on Sam's podcast, like, pretty much out of character, talking very candidly about the behind the scenes of the story and, you know, like the process and all that stuff. It's really fascinating to me that there's not, like, a whole bunch of people, like, freaking out that he broke kayfabe and shit.
But did he?
You know what I'm saying?
It's new kayfabe. It's not really, kinda, but he's making you think he's giving you, but he's making you think like he's giving you behind the scenes information, but he's giving you stuff that's part of the story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because he's that good.
I know.
You know, we did a whole show on New Kayfabe a few weeks ago, and if you missed it, check it out on YouTube on the replay.
That was more than a few weeks ago.
Well, it's on YouTube. Go find it.
It is. Not right now, though.
No, not right now.
When this is done.
Yes. GFY, go find YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, all right, moving on.
It's great.
Okay, and yet again, we have to give major props to Chelsea Green, who is absolutely killing what she's doing right now. Bully even tweeted about it. He's like, holy shit, like you give her anything and she just crushes it. And the video
Yeah,
that they posted with her, I think
Yes, you
what
did.
she's doing with that preparation for the match with Mia Yim or Michin
oh my
is
God.
fantastic. If you haven't seen the video that they posted on their YouTube and on the socials, it's hilarious.
Yeah, she's been doing some great stuff.
She is the definition of just, I think they mention it on Busted Open pretty much on a weekly basis, but just maximizing her minutes.
Mm-hmm.
That no matter what she's doing, no matter what it is, a promo, a backstage, in ring, she is just killing it and everything. And she's just so freaking entertaining.
Did you see Matt Cardona's post with
Yes.
her hanging her head out the window? Like
Yes,
she
I
was
saw that.
sick from training.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
everything counts.
So speaking of everything counts, the two of them, Chelsea and Cardona, their social media game is just top notch.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the whole world has seen it at this point. Cardona's promo video that he posted. And it really, really makes me think that it's already in the works that he's coming back to WWE, especially because he finally regained access to his original YouTube page.
Okay.
Nice. I just hope he comes back as,
owned.
yeah. I just hope he comes back as Matt Cardona.
Oh, that's
I think
for
he
sure,
has
because
to.
he's point blank said multiple times, especially in that promo and every interview that he's done in the past few months, he says Zack Ryder is dead.
Yeah.
And
look at
if
Sean
you haven't
Spears. Look at all
yes,
these people that have come back. Yeah.
if you haven't seen his promo video, watch it, because yeah, he definitely touches on that and makes it very, very well known that Zack Ryder is dead and he is Matt Cardona, and he is rebuilt on the Matt Cardona name and everything he's done since he left WWE. And yeah, I think it was absolutely the perfect kind of teaser for whatever may be next in his career.
Well, yeah, because look at NXT. They just brought in Julia. They brought in Stephanie Vakir. They didn't change their names.
Right.
And I would argue that Matt Cardona is a bigger name than either of those people, just from a social perspective. Not that they're not both talented, but from an American audience perspective, especially anybody who pays any attention to the indies, like Matt Cardona has millions of followers paying attention to everything. So yeah, I agree 100%. Matt Cardona has, if he comes back, it would be as Matt Cardona. The question is, does he come back to NXT or does he come back to the main roster? Where do you see him fitting?
Main roster.
For sure. Yeah.
He's a main roster talent. That wasn't the question. The question is, where would he be able to do the most creatively?
I still don't think he goes to NXT. I think he's too big of a name to be in NXT right now. Even with everything that they're doing with the other talent that they've got and the TNA stuff. Like, I get that when they bring in new people, or even somebody that is known outside of WWE and bring them into WWE, NXT is a really great way for them to kind of learn the WWE process. Matt Cardona doesn't need that. He doesn't need to learn that. He knows that.
Yeah, and RA points out a couple of names as well. AJ and Samoa Joe are a couple other people that they brought in without changing their names, for sure. And I think they're less likely to do that now, especially if they're bringing in anybody with equity. Like, I was excited when Maddie Rankowski got signed, but Maddie doesn't have like the global recognition of like a Matt Cardona. So she has a new WWE name, which is fine. They incorporated the Ren into it, and now we have Ren XT, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But I think it is case by case dependent. If you have a big enough name and there's equity in bringing the brand on board, then they'll probably do that. So
John, you don't get two in one show. Sorry.
Yeah, just one. There's a ton of other stuff going on. I just want to talk briefly because I know we want to hit a couple of AEW things. Obviously, the matches that are listed right now for Bad Blood are Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley. That story has just been So great. Damian Priest versus Finn Balor, obviously they have this feud going as the Judgment Day has sort of evolved. Still, I think my favorite new kayfabe story, whatever you want to call it, the most realistic, most exciting story to me is CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre.
Yes.
The work that they've done on and off camera, on social media, and it's largely been Drew McIntyre. Even the stuff he posted this week about Larry, like,
Yeah.
that's super interesting to me. And Nia versus Bailey, obviously, and then the tag match with Cody and Roman versus the New Bloodline. But I want to circle back to CM Punk real quick because he's going to be on NXT this week, live from Chicago as the debut episode on the CW. But I've seen videos like he's been coaching people, like he's been at the PC, he's been doing stuff. I think he's found his groove. He seems super happy.
Yeah,
I think so. And, you know, it might have just been a good change of pace for him. You know, obviously his time in AEW was great at first, and then, you know, things went sour. But yeah, I think he definitely has found his groove. He said at the last pay-per-view post-show press conference that, you know, so much has changed in WWE since he was there last. All the stuff that he complained about, that, you know, the things he didn't like before, you know, he said point blank that all that is fixed, and it's pretty much just exactly the way that he wanted before, that he bitched and complained and moaned about before. Yeah, I think he's probably just doing exactly what he wants to do.
Yeah, I saw a video earlier today. It was CM Punk, Triple H, and Bianca Belair just playing with Larry.
Yeah.
Just, okay, this is awesome. I like this. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, Larry definitely gets a lot of attention, and CM Punk was just sitting there casually talking to Triple H, and CM Punk had Larry in the little push cart or whatever it is, baby stroller or whatever he's pushing around Larry in. And I saw another video of somebody backstage. It was some female talent or somebody walked up to them while they were talking, and CM Punk just she came up in the frame, and he looked, and she was like, "Oh," talking
That
about
was
Larry.
Bianca.
That was okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because it was in black and white, I think the video was, so I couldn't really make out who it was, but wasn't it? Unless I need to get my eyes
Well, not
adjusted.
the one I
No,
saw.
you were probably, you need to wear your
But
glasses, man.
Probably.
No, in fairness to Tony, they showed Bianca from the back. Like most of the video is just showing her from this
Okay.
angle. And then at
Oh,
the very end, she turns and walks away, and you can see it's her, but
okay.
only for a
Right.
split second. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Well, yeah, you may be right. I need to wear my glasses more.
You do. I tell you a lot. You don't listen.
Okay, Toby.
I do want to touch on before we sign off, since it was in our title and on our thumbnail graphic, and John in South Jersey would probably want to mention it. The FTW title, we saw on Dynamite that Hook retained, and then promptly said that he was retiring the FTW title and handed it over to Taz. And I think pretty much everyone is on the same page that was a great way to do that. You know, we kind of like, the FTW title got shuffled around a little bit. You know, Jericho had a stint with it, and then, you know, thankfully Hook got it back. I think it served its purpose for the time being, and I think it was very much starting to wear out its welcome. And just the little bit that Taz had said, you know, that it was you know, it inaugurated, if you want to say that word, you know, down the street from where they were in Queens at the Elks Lodge, right?
Elks Lodge, yep.
Yeah. So it's only fitting that it was retired right there in Queens, and I think that was a really honorable way to kind of conclude that chapter.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and if John was here, he would have a lot to say about that, because John has been there in the trenches at ECW. He's probably been to the Elks Lodge many times. So yeah, if those walls could talk, can you imagine what they would
Oh
say?
my god.
They would say,
Yeah.
"Clean me."
Yeah, yeah. There's been so
I know
many stories there.
we've talked to I can't speak for John, but I know he's spoken on the show and he's spoken to us about this. Like the concept of the FTW championship in ECW, I don't feel like, and I don't know that John did either, really felt like it was carried into AEW successfully. Like you would expect guys like Eddie Kingston and Mark Briscoe and like the really gritty
Mm-hmm.
people who really embodied the spirit of that championship. Like I know what they were doing with Jericho and it was funny and everything, but yeah, to your point, Deb, it kind of just wore it. They didn't really use it in a way that honored what the intent of the championship was to me. But
Yeah.
I do agree 100% that the way that they retired it and watching Taz get super emotional, like,
Yeah,
man, that's the right thing. That was the right way to do it, and it was pretty cool.
yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
So just talking AEW real quick, I am still a super fan of what Mox is doing. I really like what he's doing with his faction. I love, again, seeing Marina Shafir in this role, having a very serious, like, even this week walking to the ring, she just pushes
Mm-hmm.
Claudio out of the way, like,
Yes.
no, I got this. And he's like, all right, you got this. And she's
Yeah.
beating the shit out of security guards. And I love it. I love where
Yeah.
they're going with it.
I do too.
Yes. I love seeing badass strong women on my TV.
Yeah.
And she's definitely one. And you know what I love the best about this whole story, whatever Mox and Marina are up to, is that I love that there's so many questions about it. I
Yeah.
love that we're not getting all the answers just to the very next show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love that it's keeping people guessing. Like we don't know what's going on. We don't know what they're doing. We don't even know, like, he said this is not your company anymore. We still don't even know what that means. And I
Right.
love that.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't need to explain it to me 2 days later.
Mm-mm. No, build that story. You know,
Yeah.
too many people are complaining about how AEW doesn't tell stories. Well, look, I mean, this right here is storytelling.
Yeah.
Um,
So let it play, let it cook, and see what happens.
I think
Yeah.
AEW is very good at starting stories. It just depends on how they develop them long term. Like we saw what happened
Right.
with like Wardlow, and we were all excited there, and where did that go? But
Right.
Yeah.
in this case, where like when it's Brian Danielson's writing his own story. Mox is definitely writing his own story. Tony Storm is
Yeah.
a big part of her own creative. I mean, the talents who are at that level, who are either contributing heavily or writing their stuff, like that's where the good stuff is to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Mid-card stories come and go. There's a lot of matches on AEW that are just for the sake of matches, but the big ticket stuff is hitting now.
It is.
And
Very much.
I also think if you look at it from like the perspective of if I'm Tony Khan and I'm like, okay, I've just signed this multi-year incredible TV deal, I'm not in a rush to tell stories. I have runway. I have lots of time.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can start to really push these things out. They have a lot of people there that they don't use. Maybe this is an opportunity to start bringing people into
Yeah.
more impactful stories. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, to your point,
Yeah.
Deb, they have stories that we're getting invested in, and stories are what draw people to venues. That's what puts asses in seats.
Exactly.
We don't know what's going to happen on Dynamite next week. Holy crap, what's going to happen? I have to be there. I have to buy a ticket as opposed to
Exactly.
TV.
Yeah.
And I think that's what was cool about Grand Slam is that it got people to buy a ticket because they really wanted to see what was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And the story drove that because just a week and a half before they were at like 4,000 tickets. And the way that they told the story and the way that they marketed it too, with interviews and all this other stuff, they more than doubled their ticket sales in that period of time, which is
Yeah.
huge props, huge kudos. That's awesome.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I noticed they are starting to do like smaller markets. Like I don't know if everyone gets this, but I've seen like just in my ads on Facebook and Instagram, like I see ads for AEW. It'll be like a little promo video of Jericho or MJF or Will Ospreay
Yeah.
saying like, "Hey, buy tickets to come see us," and blah blah blah. And like for a while, just in my region, they went to Philly and they went to Newark, New Jersey. Now, they over the summer they were in Allentown for the first time, just down the street here. That's a smaller arena. They were just in Wilkes-Barre. That's a smaller arena. I'm getting ads now. They're coming to Reading, which is a smaller arena. So they are, and that's just in my little region here. So they are definitely kind of branching out to those smaller markets, the smaller arenas, rather than just going to the big cities.
Yeah. Reading, I've loaded there many times. Reading, Pennsylvania. Yep. Yeah, I mean, you're right. I don't even think AEW's been to Hershey yet. I know WWE goes to Hershey a lot.
They haven't, but I think
So
it's only a matter of time.
right. Right. So yeah, I mean it. AEW hitting all these smaller area venues. Going from the arenas down stepping a little bit until they get their traction, which they are getting their traction back, and they are the past few months they have been on the uptick as far as getting back in the swing of
Yeah.
putting out great content. They went through their stale period, and now they're on an upswing. So I'm excited to see where it goes.
I really think at this point it's just perception.
Mhm.
It's a lot about perception that a lot of people just haven't tuned in yet or tuned back in because there was this whole perception about them. But how many times do we hear it on Busted Open that like, oh, I haven't watched AEW in about a year or so, but I checked it out and I thought it was great. Or,
Mhm.
they were in town and I haven't gone to a show in a while, but I decided last minute to go and it was awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really just a matter of people kind of just giving it a chance again.
Mhm.
I mean, for me, like, I don't really pay attention to what people online say about a product. I either like it or I don't. And I watched
Yeah.
AEW since the inception of the show, but over the last year or so, they lost me because I felt like they weren't making me have to watch. And I watch it with you guys, but I'm like, I don't really care up
Right.
until recently. And now they're
Mhm.
telling stories that are making me, well, you guys know, like all of a sudden I'm like, oh shit, I got to pay attention to this. Like
Yeah.
they're actually connecting the dots. Stuff is starting to make
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
We listen to After Dark and Bully kind of points out, oh, did you
Yeah.
guys see this? This is cool.
Yeah.
Okay, well now I'm a little more invested. I'm
Yeah.
getting there. So yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
hoping that more people follow suit for sure.
Yeah.
I think it's a slow progression. Like they're not just gonna in 1 week, bam, like
No.
viewership is gonna go way up. It's gonna be a slow progression. It's gonna be kind of word of mouth about like, oh, have you seen AEW lately? They're doing some pretty cool stuff. And slowly, hopefully, people are gonna start tuning back in.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. All right, folks. I think we cut into collision time.
Yep.
Yeah.
John's gonna send us a fine, I think.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Real quick, I've been back into getting vinyl, again, and I got this the other day, the Alice in Chains, Black
Oh,
gives
very nice.
way to blue.
Wow.
Very
So
nice.
still sealed. So yeah, I'm happy. I'm very happy. That's a
Nice.
really
That's
good
awesome.
album. If you haven't heard it, it's a really good album. That's the first album they did without Lane Staley. So it's a very good album. Check it out.
Cool. Very cool. All right, folks. Tony, where can people find you?
At Tony Justice AJFA. And if you are a Metallica fan, like I know all three of us are, you know what that means. Ooh.
Yes.
Nice. Deb?
At That's So Debonair on Twitter and Instagram. And just real quick, I just want to give a really very heartfelt rest in peace to Dame Maggie Smith. She died, was that yesterday? And she's my generation mostly knows her as McGonagall in Harry Potter, and she was in Hook, which was I get so emotionally like thinking about that movie, Hook. But yes, that woman has been in so many movies over her lifetime, and yeah, she lived a great life, and it's pretty sad that she's not with us anymore.
Rest in peace.
Yeah,
So
for
that's
sure.
it.
Yeah, she was an incredible actor, for sure. Yeah, agreed. All right, you can find me at PW Front Row on socials. You can find us at Nations Corner on Twitter and at The Nations Corner everywhere else. Folks, thanks for joining. We're going to see you again next week with another exciting edition of The Nations Corner. Later. Have a great week.